Raza referenced the GQ article, which was really, really good. You
Thank
guys should check that
you.
out. You really had it was a first person account of your experience in the bubble. Um, and you talk about the highs and lows of the bubble, right? Because it does, on one hand, it does feel like a summer camp with all your homies and you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And on the other hand, you are separated from the rest of the world
Mhm.
and the toll that puts on there. But by the end of it, you said you missed the bubble.
Yeah.
Can you talk me through those range of emotions that the
Yeah.
bubble made you have?
Yeah, it was so many emotions. Even when I was writing that piece, obviously there were so many moments in Bubble that were really heavy and people were, sad and disappointed and angry. But I thought it was really important to portray that there were light moments too. Like a lot of people view the bubble as some sort of refuge. They were around some of the friends they have had for an incredibly long time. They're around their teammates, they're having fun, they're playing cards, they're drinking wine. Like the happiness is a part of the experience too. Even though it sucked to be away from your family, I think there were just a lot of moments of levity and moments of joy. So I wanted to make sure those were sprinkled in there as well. But it was a roller coaster. I mean, I got there, had a false positive, literally thought I was going to have to pack up and go home. I'm like, I went through all this. I'm not even going to be in the bubble. I remember calling Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert and Spencer Dinwiddie and like, what was it like when you had it? Like, did you have any symptoms? Like, I'm freaking out. And they were keeping me so calm, and thankfully to them, they didn't tell anybody, because then a couple days later, I found out I was fine. But literally when I've survived, if they weren't giving me all this advice about COVID. So ended up being okay, never having it. Still haven't had it up to this point, fingers crossed. Then, going out there, doing the games, watching some great basketball, and then you see Jacob Blake, and then the NBA stops, and then there's this historic meeting, and then they decide to do this initiative that should hopefully last for the rest of the time the NBA exists. And then it's like we go back to games and you see more great basketball. And then my uncle passes away. So then I have to leave the bubble. And then I leave the bubble. And then I'm sad I'm not in the bubble. And then you feel like everybody around you has COVID because they are getting tested every day like we were in the bubble. So it was a lot of ups and downs for sure.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting that you're talking about like the camaraderie and stuff. And I read in the article, like as a former player, what we miss the most is that. Like,
Yeah.
so like for someone who, wasn't there, it sounds fantastic, right? You sit around, you're drinking some wine, you're talking some shit, you're playing phase 10. Like it just sounds like that's all the shit I miss about it, But yeah, I know it had to come with some really tough times too. I want to ask you, because you talked about Jacob Blake and then, the players kind of taking this stand.
Mhm.
How divided were they? Like, not at the end, because I know they became, but like, was it like 50-50 guys that were like, were there anyone that didn't want to play? It was like, I don't want to play, and had to be kind of pulled
Yeah.
along by the rest of the group. Like, how was that?
I mean, I think there was a good balance. I don't think there were any people in there that were both 100% on the same page. Like there's probably people that were 90% on the same page, 95% on the same page, but everybody had different ideas of how to accomplish the same thing or different things. Like how I said in the piece, money was a huge point of contention. Like they spent a large amount of time in that meeting talking about money, potential loss of money, guys that were in different situations. And
Sure.
as when George Hill said, he was like, well, what is this money if you don't have your humanity? He felt really strongly about basketball not being the thing that was needed at that moment when he decided to sit out. And then of course, I'm sure you guys know, Lakers and Clippers were like, we're down to go, we're down to leave. And, Lakers were a team that wanted to do that when they had at that chance a very high likelihood of winning a championship. So people were willing to sacrifice, but that money was really the main thing. Like I said in the piece, Austin Rivers was like, it was chaos. The room was just chaos. But my favorite part of the meeting is, what I was saying about John Lucas, who just talked about the effect that the bubble could have on people and that it was having on him as somebody who has very openly and publicly struggled with alcoholism, to talk about his experience and say, like, the more you're in here and the more you have nothing to do, you eventually might become an alcoholic. And while he was saying it in jest, the players understood what he meant, because so many of them were going through a lot of mental struggles and really needed to talk to somebody and needed some type of outlet. So a lot of things were being addressed out in that meeting, but money was the main thing.
How do you cope with that type of because I know you probably were going through that as well, the ups and the downs. How did you cope with the downs of being in that bubble and being isolated from
Yeah.
the rest of the world?
I mean, I tried to spend a lot of time like FaceTiming my friends, talking to them, like making sure I felt connected to the outside world in some way. I also said, like, when I'd get bored, I would play Connect 4 on my phone with Ja Morant. And then he taught me how to play pool on the phone, which I'm really bad at. Like, I'm so bad at that. I still haven't won a game. But he hasn't beaten me in Connect 4. So, but it was a lot of just trying to find, little bursts of light and different things. And I tried to do that a lot with just connecting with my friends that were not in the bubble.
Why were some of them dudes so bad at that game where you put the phone on your head? Like, it looked like it should have been real easy stuff, man. Why were they so bad at that?
Honestly, I love that game. I would play it with you guys right now if you wanted. It's my favorite game. But some of them just like didn't know different pop culture references. It's funny. I don't think I ever posted it, but I played it with Bam. And he's like, I only know black movies. Because he the movie category. He didn't know. There were some that were so obvious. I'm not kidding you. I'm not positive, but I think it was maybe Snow White. And he couldn't get me to guess Snow White.
Fantastic.
Like, yeah, like you gotta, he's like, is there a black movie category? But they weren't good. Josh Hart obviously takes the cake for worst attempt. But JJ Redick was good. Kelly Oubre was good. Kemba Walker was good. That was my favorite thing I did was play Heads Up. It was just a nice break.
Yeah.
How important was it to you to show that side of the bubble as well, right?
Yeah.
Because we see this other side where it's stressful, you're away from your family, but you always made a point to show, we're having fun too, guys.
Yeah, because like I said, that happiness was important. That happiness is a part of the experience, and just the bubble was different things to different people. Like the NBA players aren't some monolith who always all feel the exact same things at the exact same times. Some people 100% enjoyed the bubble. Like, I remember talking to Kemba Walker. He's like, this is fun. Like, this is what I would do anyway, is go home, go play basketball, go right back home. Like, there was times where everybody was like, this is nice. And it would be times where I'm walking past the bar and everybody's just sitting there drinking. It's been people talking about cards. People were betting so much money playing cards. It was fun. There was really fun times. And I just think that's all a part of the experience, and also all a part of the Black experience. I say that because there was so much focus on, the police brutality, racial injustice that was happening. And the whole world was looking at, these predominantly Black players, figuring out what they were going to do. And while they were upset and frustrated, they're also allowed to be other things too. Like, if you don't have those moments of happiness and levity after you maybe just, watched a Black man be shot 7 times on your phone, you'd go crazy. Like, you need other outlets. So it's just important to shine a light on that kind of self-care aspect of the bubble too.
I thought it was, well, first of all, you're talking about fishing, golfing, hanging out by the pool, playing cards, drinking wine, and playing basketball. I'm in.
Yeah.
But I got 4 kids in homeschool in the other room about to tear each other apart.
You're like, sign me up.
Yeah, I'm good.
Because while my thing is, obviously, I totally understand and respect why there would be people going through really difficult mental struggles in the bubble. I didn't really experience that. I enjoyed my time there. I enjoyed bringing the story to others and asking questions. And I just tried to go in there like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Try to have as much fun as you can. So I'm with you, Roger. I was like, let's go to the pool.
Let's light it up. Hey, I do think you touched on something that I do think it's interesting, and I read it in the article. Is like the times, like, and you referenced like Melo getting to sit around and talk to some of the younger players and kind of pass the torch almost, if you will. Like that time, NBA players don't typically all get to be together in one place. And while everyone wasn't there was enough people there where those relationships really mean something, not in your day-to-day playing against each other type of scenario, but when comes time to collective bargain, like when it comes time to have solidarity, when you sit back, down with the owners and you're trying to achieve something. So I think that part of it at the end of the day will probably bear some fruit. Like just guys getting to know people they ordinarily wouldn't get to know.
Totally. Yeah. And this didn't make it in the piece, but I remember when I was interviewing Jason Tatum, I asked him, like, is there anybody in the bubble that you didn't really know, but you're leaving the bubble feeling like you guys are good friends? And he's like, well, there was a night I just sat and talked to Trez for like 2 hours in the lobby. And he now feels like they have so much in common and they're cool. And they before had never even really spoken. I'm sure a lot of guys have stories of like, I would have never talked to this person. We ain't even in the same conference. I barely see him. But now we're cool. And I think that's a really exciting and cool thing that can happen. Just that's what basketball does. And that's really what the bubble did.